Our reading is in two bits, and part of it is, they're both incidents with Peter. The first bit is in chapter 18 of John's Gospel. If you want to have it in front of you, please do. You can find it on page 1086 in your Bible. The reading will also be on screen. 1086 in your Bibles on your pews. But it'd be useful to have the Bible with you for a bit later on. 1086. Reading this from verse 15. Simon Peter and another disciple were following Jesus. Because this disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the high priest's courtyard. But Peter had to wait outside at the door. The other disciple, who was known to the high priest, came back, spoke to the servant girl on duty there, and brought Peter in. "You aren't one of this man's disciples too, are you?" she asked Peter. He replied, "I am not." It was cold, and the servants and officials stood round a fire they'd made to keep warm. Peter was also standing with them, warming himself. Moving down to verse 25. Meanwhile, Simon Peter was still standing there warming himself, so they asked him, "You aren't one of his disciples too, are you?" He denied it, saying, "I am not." One of the high priest's servants, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, challenged him. "Didn't I see you with him in the garden?" Again, Peter denied it. And at that moment, a cock began to crow. So we're going to move on to chapter 21. You'll find that on a couple of pages further over, on page 1090. And Mariana's going to read to us from verse 10 onwards.
John chapter 21, verse 10 to 19. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you have just caught." Simon Peter climbed aboard and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." None of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. Jesus came, took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. Jesus reinstates Peter. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you truly love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. I tell you the truth. When you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me."
He's alive! I've seen him with my own eyes! He's alive! Oh, you must be wondering who I'm talking about. It's Jesus. You know, the one who's gone around doing amazing things. He can heal people who are sick. He can raise people from the dead. I mean, I know he was dead just a few days ago. They crucified him on a cross. But I just had fish with him. He's alive. I'm getting ahead of myself. You see, I've just got back. We've been fishing all night. You see, we've been fishing and we didn't catch a thing. But there I was in the fishing boat. And then we saw someone on the shore. He said, have you caught anything? Nothing. Put your nets on the other side. So we did. And, well, before we knew it, we had so many fish, we couldn't even pull them into the boat. And that's when I realized, it's the Lord. And I let out the boat and got to the shore as fast as I could. He was alive. You don't know how relieved I was to see Jesus. I was overjoyed. Because the last thing before he died was me letting him down. See, I need to go back a bit. And you could join in with this bit. You see, I've got this, it's supposed to be a rooster, you have to go with it. You see, when I show you this, you think you could join in? I'm going to say, cock-a-doodle-doo, what you gonna do? You said you're friends with Jesus, but is it really true? Do you think you could say that? Fairly easy, isn't it? Shall we try it together?
Cock-a-doodle-doo, what you gonna do? You say you're friends with Jesus,
but is it really true? You see, the night before Jesus died, we were having a meal together. The disciples, his friends. When Jesus said something strange, he took the bread and the wine and he said he was going to die, but it wasn't going to be a mistake or an accident. He was going to die for a reason, so that we could be forgiven. But that didn't sound right to me. I didn't want Jesus to die. He was here to save us, not die. And then he said to me, I said, Lord, I would never let you down. I'll be there to protect you. I'll stop you from dying, Jesus. And he said to me, Peter, before the cockerel crows, you will say 3 times that you don't even know me. Cock-a-doodle-doo.
What you gonna do? You say you're friends with Jesus. Is it really true?
Well, I said to Jesus, I'd never do a thing like that. I'd never let you down. But that night after we had eaten, well, you know what it's like after a big meal. We went out to the garden and Jesus wanted us to wait with him while he prayed, but I tried my best, but I couldn't help but fall asleep. And this, he woke up and said, "Could you even stay awake for a moment?" "Oh, sorry, Lord." And I tried my best. My eyelids were heavy. But the next thing I know, soldiers were coming into the garden to arrest Jesus. Well, I was at the ready. I told him I'd be ready. I whipped out my sword and I lunged at the soldier and cut off his ear. But Jesus simply said, "No." And he went over and he healed this soldier's ear. It just stopped bleeding. It was just right again. And I thought, why doesn't Jesus fight back? Why doesn't he try to stop them? He just let them take him away. Well, I didn't know what was going on or what I should do, but I tried to follow at a safe distance, where they couldn't see me, but where I could see them. They took Jesus to a courtyard, a place where they could put him on trial. But they said all sorts of lies about him. They accused him of blasphemy and all sorts of things. They hit him and spat at him. This wasn't the way someone was supposed to be tried. I just watched from a distance, keeping myself warm by the fire in the courtyard. And that's when somebody said to me, "Hey, you're a friend of that Jesus, aren't you?" "No, I'm not." And then another person said, yes, you are. We've seen you with him. No, you're thinking of somebody else, I said. Then a third person said, don't deny it. You're one of his disciples, aren't you? You're from the same place. And that's when I said, you're wrong. I don't even know the man. At that point, I caught Jesus' eye, and I realized what I'd done as I heard the rooster crow.
Cock-a-doodle-doo. What you gonna do? You say you're friends with Jesus. Is it really true?
Just when Jesus really needed me most, that's when I let him down. And then it was too late to say I was sorry. He was taken away, flogged, beaten, and put on a cross. Well, we didn't know what to do. We were scared. We hid in an upstairs room. Well, before you knew it, 3 days later, something amazing happened. Mary came and told me, Jesus is alive, but that can't be right, can it? I ran to the tomb and the tomb was empty. And just like I told you, today I've seen him with my own eyes. Yes, Jesus is alive. But something even better than that. Jesus has forgiven me. You see, as we sat and ate some of the fish for breakfast, Jesus asked me something. He said, Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. And he asked me again, Peter, do you really love me? Yes, Lord, you know I love you. Then he asked me a third time, Peter, do you truly love me? Well, it almost began to hurt a bit. Lord, you know I love you. I'll do anything for you. And that's when it happened. He asked me 3 times if I loved him because, well, 3 times I said I didn't even know him. And that's when I remembered the rooster. Cock-a-doodle-doo, what's she going to do? You said you're friends with Jesus, but is it really true? You see, Jesus was giving me a chance to put things right. And that's when I realized it's just what Jesus was talking about. That's why he came. That's why he had to die. That's why he's come back to life. He has come so we could be forgiven. He's come so we could be restored. He's forgiven me and restored me again, even after all I've done, because that's who Jesus is. The one who forgives, the one who restores and fixes what you think can't be mended. Oh, what am I doing standing here? I've got to go and tell everyone! Jesus is alive! He's alive! Jesus is, I've seen him with my eyes! Jesus is alive!
Thank you, Peter. Just thinking about that for a moment, here's our thought for Easter, and it's this: Jesus makes right what we make wrong. Jesus makes right what we make wrong. There's an illustration I quite often use at Easter, so no apologies whatsoever if you've seen it before. But it's this one. Jesus takes this and he makes it that. That's what we see at Easter. He takes this and he makes it now like that. Now that's obvious, isn't it, with Peter? Peter was like this, wasn't he? Do you remember? He was like that because he knew he'd let Jesus down. Peter knew he'd gone all wrong. He'd made everything wrong. Jesus made Peter like this because Jesus made right what Peter had got wrong. Jesus turned Peter around. Jesus forgave Peter. That made a huge difference to Peter. You've just seen that. That's why he runs off telling everybody. But let's just think about that a little bit, because, well, it's something to do with the shape of these faces. Something to do with the shape of these faces. This shape, well, you recognize that shape. It's not just the shape of a sad face, is it? It's the shape of when you throw a rock in the air and it goes up and it comes crashing down. It's that shape. Here we go. I've got an illustration. It's like when you throw a beanbag. Here's my beanbag. You throw a beanbag, it follows this shape. You watch. Up it goes, stops. Crash. Yeah? That's Peter's story, isn't it? At that point, when Jesus has died, Peter had had high hopes. He'd given it all he'd got, and he'd come crashing down. He'd completely failed. He'd completely let Jesus down. He knew he had. It had all come crashing down. Like a beanbag. All right. Here's my thought about what Jesus does when he rises from the grave. He turns a beanbag into a bouncy ball. Now I'm going to need somebody who's really good at catching for this, because otherwise terrible trouble can result. Okay, so I need a really, really confident catcher who's not going to let me accidentally injure anybody in the congregation, because otherwise I would. I've got a couple of confident volunteers down here. Are you really confident at catching? Are you going to have a go? All right. Do we have a backstop? Do you want to go behind him as a backstop, just in case it all goes wrong? Because I don't want to hurt the people over there. All right. You've got to stand over there, a bit near where Kelly is. Stand over. Yeah, there's Kelly. Right. Watch what happens with this ball, yeah? So with the beanbag, you've seen what happens with the beanbag, haven't you? It traces this shape, up, down, stops. Okay, well, I landed on a bouncy fish there. Slightly illustrated. Anyway, just, remember first time. Poof, stops. Right. What does the bouncy ball do? What does the bouncy ball do? Okay, you ready? It's going to come up at you. Ready? Whoop. Hey, there we go. Well done, well done. Thank you. Thank you. You can sit down. Do you get the point? When you throw a bouncy ball at the ground, it doesn't do this. It does this, doesn't it? Do you know? It bounces back. It changes direction when it hits the floor. It stops going down, it goes up. That's what happened with Jesus, wasn't it? When Jesus died, it wasn't this. It wasn't the beanbag crashing into the ground and staying in the grave forever. It wasn't that at all. It was the bouncy ball. Jesus went into the grave, dead, buried, cold, gone. And 3 days later, poof, he's back. He's back as good as he ever was. He's back more. In one sense, this side of the smile goes up higher than this side ever did. Jesus is raised up greater. And he does that to Peter, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean? In Peter's story, when Peter thinks it's all come crashing down and he's the beanbag on the floor, he's let Jesus down, Jesus bounces back and says, no, change of direction for Peter. Jesus is risen. All is not lost. The hope that had died is here with interest. And it changes Peter's direction, doesn't it? When Peter was fishing, they'd gone out fishing because they didn't know what to do now Jesus had died. They didn't know what to do now that they'd let him down. And Jesus met with them and said to Peter, feed my sheep, didn't he? It's not all over for you, Peter. It's not all lost. You've got a job to do. Go and tell everyone. And he did, didn't he? And that's how we know now Isn't that great? Like, however many years later, we know now, don't we? Because Jesus went to those disciples and he said, go and tell everyone. And they did. They've told us. Well, Easter's this. It's not just like this for Peter. It's like this for us, isn't it? Think about forgiveness. Think about forgiveness. Well, Peter knew he'd let God down. He knew he'd failed. Maybe there's times we feel like that. Maybe we feel like that now. There's things we've failed. Maybe we've let God down. Maybe we've let somebody down. Maybe it feels like the story has ended for us, like the beanbag flat on the floor. Jesus is risen. All is not lost. Forgiveness is available. Turnaround is possible. It's there for those who come to him and ask. Or what about death itself? You know, you can't think of Easter without thinking of the grave. The dead Jesus in the ground, which wasn't the end of the story. And he emerged to life. And maybe death or death's allies, illness, weakness, all of that, maybe that is what's weighing you down at the moment and making you like this. Jesus is risen. The hope is not lost. Death is not the end. He's risen to new life, and he offers that to anyone who trusts him, who asks him, because it's his to give. So, there you go. Jesus makes right what we had made wrong. The things we made wrong, Jesus makes right because he's risen. And so there is hope. There is life.